Okay, we're live now. Hello everybody, it's Melissa here from Youth Work Ireland, Cavan Monaghan, and I'm here from the Youth Information Project, and we're here for Friday Live, and today we have a special guest who is Inspector Ken Coughlan from Carrickmacross Garda Station, and we have him here today because we've had some questions in the last few weeks about Garda Powers, and we just wanted to pick his brain on some of the questions of the rights and the responsibilities of young people around the coronavirus and where they can go and where they can't go. So thanks very much, Ken, for coming along today.
No problem. You're very welcome, Melissa. Nice to be here.
That's good. So I suppose just to start off, just what are some of the things that the Gardaí have been doing in the community during the COVID-19 lockdown? What's been happening?
Yeah, well, I suppose when the whole COVID emergency started back in March, it was kind of a very different time for us because a lot of our ordinary police work stopped. But fairly quickly we got involved with the community engagement aspect of our policing, and we were involved with the community forum, the call for help, which was set up in this area, which was in Cavan and in County Monaghan as well, whereby we were offering our assistance to the various different community groups. We were assisting with shopping, and we were going out delivering medication and all that type of stuff. So basically, if there was a call for assistance that either came to Monaghan County Council or indeed to Garda stations, we were doing our best to assist people. Obviously, because a lot of older people and people who were cocooning weren't able to get out and about anymore. So we found it as an opportunity, or we saw it as an opportunity to fill that gap in society. So we were happy to do it, and to enable us to do that, we rented a lot of COVID community vehicles. So you might see them going around the place. They're the unmarked cars with Garda on them, and that's what they are at. They are specifically there to do community work, to assist people who mightn't be able to get out and about. So it was a great opportunity for us to get out into the communities and to do very kind of different work that we mightn't ordinarily get an opportunity to do, but very valuable work, and hopefully we'll be able to continue it, because I think it's a great opportunity to build upon that now.
Yeah.
So that's where we've been at.
And like you say, it's been a great chance to kind of have that time to do that. Yeah. Because I know even my uncle, he has, and he lives in a kind of a protected kind of a community for elderly people, and the guards have been very helpful to them. Of if they needed anything or they needed shopping or anything like that, they were able to help out.
Yeah, I suppose we were just we wanted to get the message out that we were there for people if they needed us, and that we were encouraging them to call us, and if there was any way at all that we could help, whatever the case was, or whatever the request was, if we could certainly help, we would do our best to do that. And we just wanted to reassure people that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, that we hadn't gone away, that we were very much still here, and we were here to assist communities.
Yeah, which is great. Right, I'm going to kick off these questions. So the first one is about protesting, I suppose, but because of the Black Lives Matters campaign, there was a few questions in over the last week or two about, basically this is the question: can Gardaí arrest someone for attending a large gathering like a protest? Can we be arrested just for attending because of the COVID restrictions?
No, as long as the social distancing guidelines were observed, we wouldn't be arresting anybody. The arrest was always and has remained the very last resort. Obviously, people and young people are no different. You have the right to protest. Everybody has that. It's it's a constitutional right that if you're not happy about something, you're entitled to protest to make your views known, as long as you do it in a peaceful and an orderly manner. The only occasion that we may arrest someone at a protest is if they, they got out of hand, or they were committing public order offences, or they were interfering with other people's movement or property, or they were occasioning breaches of the peace. But certainly no protests. they are allowed. There's nothing wrong with a protest as long as it's done in a peaceful fashion. And as I say, you're not interfering with anybody else's livelihood or, passage or anything like that. It's we certainly are not in the business of going out arresting people unless we are left with no other option.
Yeah. Okay.
No problem.
If a Garda stops me for no reason on the street, can they ask me for my name and address?
Well, a guard can ask anybody any question, any reasonable question. That's kind of a funny question because the younger person or any person's view is that they've stopped me for no reason, but the guard may have a reason that it wouldn't be necessarily obvious to yourself. But I suppose the short reply to that is we're entitled to ask a name and address if we feel that that there may be a breach of the Public Order Act, or we fear that they may have been up to something that they shouldn't have been. So we are entitled to ask name and address. And if somebody fails or refuses, or they give us an address that we feel is false or misleading, we actually have an entitlement to arrest the person just to confirm your name and address. So usually when a guard engages with someone on the street, it could be for just general chit chat. How are things? How are you getting on? But more often than not, we may have been, acting on receipt of a complaint. But we're entitled to ask name and address. Yeah.
Okay, and like it is for a reason. There's some reason behind it. And I wonder then, like, just for young people, they might know this. What happened? Like, why would you take someone's name and address? Do you take it back to the station, or is it just, for that moment in time, or, what would happen when you take somebody's name and address? What will happen to the information?
Well, if we ask someone's name and address, we mightn't record it anywhere. We might just say, who are you? Oh, I'm such and such. I'm living. Where do you live? But perhaps you might want to go home. But if we recorded their details, we would put it in their notebook, and then we would also record, if we were responding to a call, from a complaint from a member of the public, that would be recorded in our pulse system, the Garda pulse system. But that information would be lawfully obtained and stored accordingly as well in terms of data protection and all the rest. But if Garda asks your name and address, you can give it. If you choose not to give it, then we are into a different. We can then escalate matters.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, I know myself and yourself and other members of the Garda Síochána and Monaghan Integrated Development do a program every year called "Don't Pour Your Dreams Away" for the junior cert students getting their results. And I know from listening to yourselves and your colleagues, you always say, like, Gardaí, they want to give you a chance. You're in the business of the safety of everybody in the community and keeping everybody safe. So it's that you want, if you get a direction from a guard, they're giving you a chance to kind of do the right thing, which is either go home or go away from the area that they're telling you to. So to kind of take the chance, to comply and do the right thing, because there's a reason why you're telling them to go home, or there's a reason why you're telling them to move on.
Absolutely. I mean, I was a sergeant for many years. I worked on the regular units, and I would have been out, working weekends and nights and all the rest. And always, our intention or our hope was that everybody would be able to come out, enjoy themselves, and get home safely.
Yeah.
It was always a good weekend or a good night when everybody was home safely. We never wanted someone to get injured. Never wanted to see someone getting assaulted. Over the years, we would have seen young people who drank to excess, may have taken other substances, and would have put themselves at risk. Our primary concern was the welfare of anybody, and particularly younger people, because I appreciate that when you are younger, you will experiment with alcohol. Unfortunately, you probably will experiment with some drugs. Things can go wrong. We've all seen that in media over the years.
Yeah.
Things have the potential to drastically go wrong with tragic circumstances, but always our hope is that people will get home safely to their parents or to whoever they're with, to their families, safe. And we don't want to see anyone coming to harm, having to be taken to hospital, often back of an ambulance, which is unfortunately does happen from time to time.
Yeah.
You know.
And that was something, Ken, even though you're saying that now, that has come up before in that program of saying,
Yeah.
you know, we want everyone to come home safe. So if a young person is with their friends and somebody collapses for whatever reason, it might have been something to do with alcohol, it might have been doing something with an illegal substance. The importance of staying with your friend, even if the guards or an ambulance arrives. So could you talk a bit about that?
Absolutely, that's absolutely vital, Melissa, because if somebody collapsed, we or the paramedics can't communicate with that person. But your friend, if the friend is there, we can say, what did it take? And that is vital information that we'll have to, you know, that we need to know what has that person taken. And that will dictate how the medical treatment will progress. That is vital. But if we find someone on the street who's unresponsive, obviously we'll have to get medical attention for them, but we don't know what they've taken. They might have taken a turn. We don't know if they have medical history. We don't know if they've taken tablets. We don't know if they've taken too much alcohol or they've taken both. So it's vitally important. You're not going to get in trouble. If you stay with your friend, absolutely not. We will be delighted to see you there because you will assist us. And the ultimate goal, as I said earlier, is to get, make sure people are safe and get the medical attention if they need it. And I suppose from yourself, if you ran off on your friend and things, took a tragic turn, I don't think you'd forgive yourself, you're not going to get in trouble.
Yeah. And like you're saying, it's the bit about for the doctors, they need to know,
Absolutely.
Is it just to have a medical condition? Is it that they did take something and they need to know how to treat it and they need to know what they took to decipher what to do with them. So that's why it's important.
Because the sooner we know what we're dealing with, the better chance of recovery, there is.
Okay. Another question here is, do the Gardaí still have special powers like they did in lockdown? So are you still at the stage where you do have special powers? Superpowers.
Special powers. Probably, I suppose any power we have is kind of special that it's not everybody would have them, but look, when lockdown started, there was under the Health Act of 1947, there was temporary regulations brought in terms of shops closing, pubs and stuff closing, and restrictions on movement and all the rest. So when it started out, we were kind of implementing, I think it was a 2-kilometer rule. Then that progressed to 5 kilometers, and I think now it's up to 20 kilometers. So we do have powers under the Health Act, but the primary one that we were dealing with was the restrictions on movement. And it's a summary, or they were summary matters. So in other words, we would have been dealing with them, we would have been sending a file to the DPP looking for a direction on those. But basically, look, we still have those powers. Now the restrictions on movement have increased again, and I think there might be even more announcements coming later again. So they'll move again, or they'll change again. So every couple of weeks, the goalposts have been moving. So it's been kind of challenging for us to keep on top of what we can do and what we can't do. But what we are doing and what we've continued to do all along is, you might have heard it on the news, and the commissioner even spoke about it earlier on as well, about the 4 E's, which was engaging with the people, explaining if they're in the breach of the regulations, and encouraging people to stay within the regulations or to conduct themselves accordingly. And there was the 4th one. Then the 4th E was about enforcement, but that was always a last resort. We will be bringing some prosecutions for breaches of the temporary regulations, but thankfully there's not too many, because 99% of people have been fairly compliant. And once we explain that you can do this or you shouldn't be doing that, and young people have been the same, they will comply and they'll move on. And people have been fairly responsible, thankfully. And I think we can see that in how it has progressed here in this country, that the surge never came in terms of the large numbers that they were hoping, they were fearing would happen. But that's all down to everybody's cooperation and observance of the regulations. But
and how do you think young people have done? Because sometimes young people get a bad rap, you know, in the media and that. So what have you observed? How do you think they've gotten on with the restrictions?
I think they did get a bad rap, and there was a lot of focus about, younger people are, are vectors of the virus, and children are, but it turns out that, that maybe all that wasn't necessarily accurate.
Yeah.
I have to say, from the Carton Cross district where I'm working from, the young people haven't given us any major problems at all. Thankfully, we haven't had too many problems. As I say, people are fairly responsible and compliant, and they've been dealing, they've been behaving themselves well. We've had one or two occasions where we might have had to intercede with a number of groups, but it was well received, and I think everyone appreciated why we were doing what we had to do.
Yeah.
Thankfully, as I say, touch wood, I think we're in a good enough position. Obviously, we're not out of the woods, but we just have to be careful, and hopefully nobody wants to see us going back. So that's why we still have to make sure that we still observe the social distancing, and we take the necessary precautions in terms of regular hand washing and sneezing and coughing etiquette and all that. They still are very applicable, and even very much so for younger people as well. Younger people, they may think that that they're invincible, and I suppose we all thought that when we were younger. But you're living with older people. Your granny or your granddad, or you might have an older parent who might have an underlying condition that mightn't be that obvious, but you wouldn't want to bring that home and to affect somebody in the household. But no,
and I think
have been responsible.
I think that young people have been aware. It seems like they are not as susceptible to it, but I have heard from young people we've been talking to that they are trying to protect their grandparents, or they're very concerned about them, and they miss visiting them and all of that. So they are aware of what their role is in the whole thing as well, even though they seem less likely to get it. And like that, we don't want to go backwards, which is very important even for us opening our services.
Oh yeah, we need to move on. We need to get back to normality. Young people need to get back to schools, need to get back to colleges. Youth clubs need to open up. Sports facilities we need to get back to normality as quickly, but as safely as we can. But we can't rush things. We don't want to do anything to jeopardize our progress or the roadmap. But hopefully, we're moving in the right direction. So please God, we'll keep moving that way.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much for coming on today. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say bye-bye, and I'm going to go off Facebook, hopefully right way. I'll try. Hold on a second now. Kaelan usually does this bit for me.